Hello, hello. This is the My Artifact episode number 3980. Today's date is April 3rd, 2026. It's been almost like a night at 10:12 p.m. Alright, let's just jump into the question. Let's go. Alright, so question is wait, okay, yeah. Which children remain excluded, underserved, or invisible in our education system, including girls, children, and disabilities, tribal student, migrant children, urban poor, and linguistic minorities, and why? Okay, that's really good question. Okay, first of all, what exactly is this question, and why am I asking this question to myself? This is a question is about education system in India. Okay, why am I asking this question to myself? In future, I wanted to become a education minister of India. But before I want to become that particular person, I wanted to aware of every kind of like a situation, every problem, and how do I suppose solve that problem. Okay, yeah. So that's why I'm actually asking this question to myself. Now, regarding about the question, let me kind of like a simplify it in simple ways. Okay, yeah. The question is, in India, which group of children are being left out of school system and why the system are failing to reach them? Okay, it's basically this thing that which kind of like a student are kind of like a left out from the Indian education system. Okay, yeah. And what is actually reason for them that they are kind of like a left out? Okay, yeah. There are a couple of reasons. Let's kind of like a talk one by one. Okay, yeah. Reason number one, girls. Okay, yeah. Girls are left out from Indian education system. Well, probably is this thing na ki if you are like it depends on who you are. Okay, yeah. Like if you are kind of like listening this, okay, yeah, probably is this thing you might be kind of like living in kind of like urban area or metro city. Okay, yeah. And from your point of perspective, you might see that girls are educating, they are going to the school, right? But the world that you see is a far less. In reality, things are very crazy. I'm talking about in India point of perspective. India, girls are like they are usually left out. In rural area, things are very, very dangerous over there. Now, why? Why is that key girls are left out? Okay, couple of things. Okay, first of all, is that key some of the basic amenities that school should supposed to be provided, they are not providing. Like a toilet, girls are really required a toilet. They don't really have a toilet. Most of the kind of like a rural school doesn't really come with a toilet. Okay, yeah. Like some of them are kind of like a building a toilet, but still is this thing. It's like a really unfinished business. Okay, yeah. Another thing is that key some school are so far away that parents are don't want their daughter should supposed to be go that far school. And why is that? Because it's a very far away. Like, but why? Like you kind of like let your son to go to that school which is far away, but why don't you kind of like let your daughter go that far away? Why is that? Well, it's psychology. Okay, is that key parents, not only parents, like basically is this thing na ki same thing is that ki let's just say if my daughter is actually going really really far away to the school, like I don't really have any daughter at the moment, but let's just imagine, okay, yeah, not okay, let's just I don't really have any daughter, let's take a sister. Okay, yeah. So basically my sister is kind of like a going somewhere. Okay, yeah. And somewhere like a very far away school. Okay, like basically like she has a kind of like exam. Okay, legit, like she has an exam at a center which is very shady place. Okay, yeah. So should I let her go by alone? I will not let her go alone. Like even if she has a kind of like exam, I go with her. And why is that? Is because of that na ki it's a kind of like somebody is just saying that ki in India women are kind of like a looked at as a kind of like a somebody very like a fragile human. What's a fragile human? Like, talk directly na. It's like that na ki, okay, yeah, like so many consequences will gonna happen, and I don't want to kind of like somebody mention that consequences. Okay, yeah, having a kind of like a something a secured person go with her would be much more better, so that it kind of like a feel like stability. But as a boy who kind of like a went far away, I don't really feel that much kind of like a somebody required security, because what would happen with that boy? Nothing really happened. But with the girl, there are multiple of consequences will gonna happen, and I don't want to talk about that consequences. You already knew what is that consequences. If you still wanted to know, maybe a kind of like a rape, or maybe kind of like something like that ki things happened, or yeah, lot of stuff. Okay, yeah. So I'm not trying to think that much kind of like something very crazy, but still is this thing na ki, yeah, these are kind of like exist. I live in tier 3 city. Okay, yeah, and I'm kind of like something still kind of like a really that much understandable. I have this mindset, but still I'm thinking like that way, that ki like at least I know I might be kind of like a thinking very wrong, but like this is what kind of like some safety that I wanted to ensure, right, to the people that I know and things and that, right. So this is what I'm trying to tell you. So basically in the rural area things are even more crazier na. In the rural area kind of like somebody is saying the school are actually far away, then basically existing parents are not allow them to go there, right, because it's a very far away. Okay, reason number one, toilet. Reason number two, school is actually far away. Reason number three, most of the rural cases in most of the rural area kind of like assembly every kind of like assembly every kind of like a girl have a kind of like a responsibility. And what is that responsibility? A marriage or wedding or things like that. Let me tell you one thing, this is a kind of like a real scenario, by the way. My mommy means what? My mother's brother wife. Okay, we called them as a mommy because like basically we called mother's brother as a mama, and mama's kind of like a wife, we call them mommy. Okay, yeah. So I have mommy, and she was getting married. Like basically what exactly happened na, she is she married under age. Like basically is this thing na ki like she married at the age of maybe kind of like 17 running things and that. Okay, like basically is this thing that ki required age for getting married is 18. Okay, yeah, but my mommy is kind of like a married with my mama at age of 17. Okay, yeah. And reason is a kind of like a very crazy. Okay, let me tell you what is the reason. The reason was that ki mommy's parents, probably I'm not really sure about the exact things actually happened, but something is that ki they wanted to kind of like assembly get her daughter married as quickly as possible. And why is that? Because like they think that na ki soon as she get married, then they will free. And this is what kind of like Indian mentality, Indian parents mentality are those. I'm talking about a rural point of perspective, by the way. Like basically in cities things are might be much more better, but if you went to rural area, these are exist, still exist. I'm 2026 point of perspective, these are still exist, by the way. Okay, yeah. So basically is this thing na ki every parents are think that na ki let's kind of like a daughter is kind of like a cross 18, get her marriage, get her kind of like a somebody like a get the wedding soon as possible. Okay, yeah. But why does kind of like a parents are kind of like a think like that way? Is because of that a kind of like a something like a basically is this thing same issues, a safety kind of like things like that. Now what exactly mean by safety? Okay, so basically is this thing that ki in India, okay, if you are from US and Europe, you might not understand this concept, but let me tell you. Okay, yeah. In India, the respect of the family is kind of like a destroyed if the daughter of that family had a sex with some other random guy, then probably when that news is kind of like spread all over the society, then that disrespect is kind of like somebody feel by family, like feel daughter too with the family too. Okay, like basically it's this thing now. Okay, yeah. If the daughter had a some like a did some sort of sex with some random guy, and that news is kind of like a spread, then lot of shame is kind of like a happened towards the family and towards the daughter too. But if son did that thing, it doesn't really matter at all. It just, yeah. But why? Why is that? Okay, like I don't know why, but this exists, by the way. These are kind of like exist. Okay, yeah, still exist. Still, it kind of like exist. By the way, it's this thing that na ki like I'm kind of like a thinking too much Broadway. Like basically is this, no one is kind of like a somebody is this thing that ki let's just jump for the sex and things. It's not that actually happened, but still it's just thing that na ki there is a like a fear. Okay, yeah. Like parents always have that kind of like a fear that what if my daughter did something wrong stuff, because let me tell you one thing now, because of she did something wrong stuff means what, like a sex is a kind of like a very big step. Okay, she did not did that stuff, but what if she fall in love with some other guy, which is commonly happened. Okay, yeah. Like she fall in with some other guy. Okay, yeah. That guy did not sex with her, nothing really at all, but because of falling in love is a kind of like a, somebody create a kind of like a taboo in Indian society and things and that. And falling in love and kind of like a create a taboo in society and things and that, specifically in rural area. Okay, yeah, that is also equivalent to a shame. Okay, yeah. No, because of what will gonna happen after the shame. Okay, yeah. Like a family is kind of like a getting the shame. Another thing is that na ki the that kind of like a woman will not gonna get married soon. Why? Because other society member will kind of like say this thing that ki this family's daughter have a kind of like a love with this boy. Okay, yeah. Even if they broke up and things like that, they just attach that image, and because they attach that image, it just stick with that image for the rest of the lifetime. And that is when this actually happened, then probably is this thing na ki they don't really get married soon. Now this is actually happened is because of that na ki like a woman, like a girls, they don't really allow to that much do education because of this constraint and things and that. So that's why they just not really kind of like a became independent in throughout the entire period of lifetime. And yeah, like my mother is the one of the best example. Okay, yeah. Like my mother is also married when she was at the age of maybe 17, 16. Yeah. And basically, let me tell you one thing, my father and my mother has a 10-year of gap. Literally, yeah. So do you understand? And another thing is that na ki same issues, like basically my grandfather kind of like a somebody did married, did kind of like a somebody get her daughter married is because of same thing. And that like मुलगी वयात आली आहे बा, तिचे लग्न करून द्या बा, हात पिवळे करून द्या, that's it. So this is what kind of like a mentality that it has. Still it has like some sort of kind of like a rural community, rural villages are kind of like allow their daughter to kind of like go to the school and things like that because of the school are kind of like came closer to the every village, but still these issues are still exist. Okay, yeah. So girls are kind of like left out or excluded in a kind of like Indian education system. I'm gonna point out every kind of like a some reason, and then I will kind of like tell you the solution. Okay, yeah. Reason number 2, children with the disabilities. Okay, yeah. Now what is at least this thing? Disabled student means what? Basically is this thing that something actually happened, they cannot able to be see, they cannot able to hear, they cannot able to speak, or maybe they are kind of like one hand is actually cut, or maybe one leg actually cut, or they have a polio or something like that. Okay, yeah. That is called disability. Okay. And access of those disability, like access of getting school, like access for school for a disabled is a kind of like a very less, or maybe kind of like a very like a not so like a basically not so exist. Okay, by the way, regarding about this point now, I am not kind of like a tell you everything regarding about this particular prospect, this particular point. Why is that? Because I don't really experience that much. I haven't really seen that many disabled student. Okay, yeah. And whatever the student that I seen, though those students have a kind of like a different schools. Okay, yeah. I don't know about this particular concept. Okay, yeah. Because let me tell you one thing now. There is also one thing that I wanted to mention. Okay, yeah. Disabled student. Okay, yeah. Or any kind of like a disability student or disabled kind of like a, yeah, born, they are not allowed to go to the school, or their family kind of like a thinks that it's a kind of like a burden, and they just never really let that kid to go to the school and things and that. I live in like in my surrounding area there is a kind of like a particular person. Okay, yeah. And that particular person, I knew him. I knew him means like that I knew his face, but I didn't really knew his name. Okay, I seen him. Okay, yeah. So this is a boy who is a kind of like a have a disability. He talks something like he just walk, like basically what is actually happened now. He's like a little bit of like a mental, probably this might be a kind of like a simply right description, but I'm not really sure. Okay, yeah. But yeah, he is a little bit of kind of like a mental, and something he kind of like a something that ki when he try to walk, he walks something very differently. Okay, yeah. So he has that kind of like a disability. I'm not kind of like a try to any kind of like a somebody discriminate any kind of like a particular person. I'm just try to be honest and things and that and that. Okay, yeah. Okay, so basically it's this thing na ki this particular person was my like basically is not my classmate. He was like basically is this thing like I was in the fourth standard, so he was in third standard. Okay, yeah. Like kind of like a junior. Okay, yeah. And I was actually talking about when I was in kind of like a simply like a 1 to 4 standard. Okay, so this boy is kind of like a simply kind of like a with me in that particular school. Now basically what is actually happened na ki this particular boy who kind of like a went to the school till 4th standard. I'm not really sure how he like after that how he kind of like does he kind of like educate or not. I'm not really sure about that. Okay, yeah. But after the 4th standard, I haven't really seen him. I seen him every single time. He's at the home all the time. Okay, yeah. And like basically I seen him like basically is this thing like he like basically is this thing that na he's always kind of like somebody sit outside at the kind of like house on the chair. Okay, yeah. His parents are kind of like somebody just put the chair and he sit on there. Okay, yeah. And that's what I realized that na ki disabled student is not because of that ki they are not kind of like a credible, is they are not getting that much kind of like education is because not they are credible. It's because of that ki their parents are not kind of like somebody let them, like they don't really think that ki like a this particular disabled student should supposed to be kind of like a, did do something good or not. They never really think anything at all, nothing really at all. Okay, yeah. So obviously parents didn't really believe anything at all why they should suppose spend money on kind of like somebody put him into the education and things and that and that. So obviously they are kind of like excluded. By the way, let me tell you one thing. In today's point of perspective, some disabled students have their own schools. Okay, yeah, in India, but still those are actually available in metro cities, by the way, or maybe tier 2 city. Tier 3 city and rural area, I don't really think that these are kind of like exist. Nothing really at all. Okay, so disabled students are mostly excluded from education system. Reason number third, tribal Adivasi student. Oh, that's a really good question. Okay, so basically Adivasi students are also kind of like excluded from the education system. How? Now Adivasi student, like okay, I'm not kind of like say this thing Adivasi, but it's like that na ki Okay, we have like a okay, even if you try to understand what is the Adivasi, let me kind of like explain to you. If you are from US, Europe, okay, so let's just understand. Okay, so basically in India, every student is a kind of like a somebody categorized by casteism system. Okay, so I am from scheduled caste. Okay, so basically is this thing like when I kind of like a somebody went into the college or school or anything, I have to be put my caste. Okay, caste and subcaste. So basically my caste, like basically I am Buddhist. Okay, like I am a Buddhist, but when I went to the school, I shouldn't supposed to put Buddhist. Why? Because it's like a basically existing na. It's actually exists, but we are not fall into that category, into the Buddhist. We actually falling in kind of like a scheduled caste community, SC, and subcaste Mahar 37. So this is my kind of like assembly caste. Okay, SC scheduled caste community, and then subcaste is a Mahar 37. Okay, and then I kind of like a fall into that particular community of the group. Okay, then there is a kind of like assembly Adivasi and things. Okay, so they have kind of like a NT. Okay, NT. They kind of like I am not really sure what is actually their full form, but there is a NT means like that the people who are from Adivasi or things, they are kind of like a NT. Okay, above us, like basically like a OBC category. Okay, like there is a OBC category. It's a like it's a lot of kind of like a structure, dude. It's just like a really fuck. Okay, and basically every student is actually categorized by this casteism system. I also fall into that thing. Okay, my casteism system is that ki I am scheduled caste community SC Mar 37 subcaste. So this is what kind of like a things actually happen in India. Now another thing is that na ki why those kind of like NT student or Adivasi student are excluded from the education system. What is actually the reason for them? Well, basically it's not really that ki education system are kind of like discriminated or they are not allowed to go to their school. No, definitely not. Like basically I seen lot of kind of like NT student, Adivasi student are actually from my school, and they are some of my best friend too. They are my friends too. Okay, it's not really that they are kind of like somebody away from me or no, nothing at all. The problem is that na ki like basically is this thing na ki probably is this thing the whatever the Adivasi student that I met are kind of like a somewhat something are already associate in the society, and they are kind of like a blend in the society in a such a way that it doesn't feel like that ki a kind of like a foreign things and that and that. But if you went to kind of like a somebody very rural area, then that difference is kind of like a much more bigger. Okay, why? Because like some Adivasi students, they have their own cultural language, and their own cultural language is kind of like a very different language. Okay, and they cannot able to be speak. Obviously, they cannot able to speak my English language. Definitely not. They cannot able to speak Hindi language. Okay, they cannot able to be speak regional language too. Like my regional language is a Marathi, and like some of the Adivasi might speak a little bit of Marathi or kind of like a somebody that ki like a different kind of like a Marathi accent, but they might understand. But if you went to kind of like a somebody is this thing that ki I don't know, like basically is this thing till now probably this Adivasi student are mostly blend into the regional society and things and that. Tribal students are sorry the tribal students are actually kind of like a blend in the regional students. So so basically this thing that na ki at the moment I don't really found that much kind of like some difference, but probably is this thing I don't know at the moment, but probably is this thing that ki the real reason for Adivasi student are not kind of like somebody excluded from the Indian education system is because of that their language. Probably, I'm not really sure about that. I think I'm not really sure exactly about this answer, because till 2026 maybe mostly kind of like Adivasi tribal community of the people are blend into the society with much more better way. So I don't really think that might be a kind of like some problem. I don't really think that. Okay, migrant children. Okay, what's the migrant children? Migrant children are kind of like such a children whose their parents are kind of like always been moving. Okay, yeah. And because of their parents are always been moving, kids are also moving with them too. And when the kids are also moving, they are kind of like a somebody getting very different culture. Okay, yeah. It's I'm not really say that those are kind of like excluded because of that key. Obviously the migrant student means like that their parents are kind of like a migrating, and they are migrating is because of some sort of amount of work. So let me tell you one thing, that army personals are kind of like a migrating every single time. Okay, yeah. So basically is this thing, obviously army personnel means obviously a kind of like educated person, and obviously educated person are kind of like make sure that his kid should supposed to be get kind of like as much as quality of education. Okay, yeah. So they are kind of like providing things, but there is a kind of like interruption actually happened, like basically fourth standard they did this on this college, fifth standard they went, that kid kind of like went to the another school and kind of like did fifth standard in different course things, and that because of multiple schools are actually changed, the student are kind of like a detached, and they didn't really make that many friends for longer period of time. So probably they feel left out somehow something, because it impact on their society, sorry, it impact on their psychology, because of that key they're always moving every single year, they're kind of like moving from one point to another point, so it kind of like really affect on them probably. But still is this thing that key, did they kind of like exclude? Probably, yeah. They kind of like a little bit exclude from psychological point of perspective, not a kind of like a technical point of perspective. Okay. And urban poor, the hidden cost. If the government school are fees things like a notebook, uniform, okay, yeah, like urban poor, that is also kind of like a really good point, dude. Okay, yeah. So basically this thing, let's just say the student who are kind of like somebody living in metro city, okay, yeah, but in slum, like a Bombay slum. Okay, like in Bombay they have like a slum called Andheri, not Andheri, like a Dharavi slum. Okay, yeah. So Dharavi is a kind of like a part of the Bombay, by the way, and Bombay is a kind of like a metropolitan city. Now the problem is that na ki Bombay is a very upgraded city, like a very, like you might found a kind of like such a student which is equivalent to a kind of like something like a England or things, like they are kind of like going to the school with a kind of like a fancy Mercedes cars and things and that, oh my god. And there is a other side is the kind of like a people who are kind of like from slum, they cannot afford to kind of like a somebody food for 2 time. Okay, yeah. So because of this kind of like a partition, like a massive difference between the rich and poor. Okay, yeah. So the rich are kind of like a somewhat something blend in the society, because obviously they are rich, they look good and things and that, but poor people are not considered them as a kind of like human. And not only kind of like consider them, like basically they don't really consider themselves as a kind of like somebody is this thing that key they should supposed to match with the level of their kind of like excellence or level of their kind of like looks and things and that. Because let me tell you one thing, na, credibility is actually defined or judged by the kind of like a look at first. Okay, yeah. Talent is actually come later. So basically this thing, this is might be kind of like a simply one reason too, that key kind of like a somebody that key this poor people from rich society are kind of like a somebody excluded from education system. Because of that they always kind of like stuck into the comparison zone and things and that. Okay, yeah. So these are kind of like somebody. Okay, then linguistic minority, these are also reason too. Linguistic minority means like that lost in translation and things like that. These are also kind of like associated with the language barrier and things like that. Okay, yeah. So these are kind of like a problem. Okay, yeah. How do I suppose to solve those problem? Okay, yeah. So basically is this thing, how do I solve that problem? I wanted to reform entire education system. Okay, from ground up. Okay, from, yeah. And basically for that particular purpose, that's why I'm kind of like somebody recording this kind of like assembly understanding. Like basically this thing now, I wanted to implement this action after 20 years. Like in my life, like probably this thing I will gonna implement everything after 20 years. So that's why I'm kind of like talking right now, so that I would be more aware of that at the moment. Okay. So let me tell you one thing, my solution. My solution is a Gurukul program. Okay. My entire kind of like a change is a Gurukul program. Now, what is actually Gurukul program? Now, Gurukul program is a kind of like a, such a thing where students are actually enrolled in the Gurukul. Okay, Gurukul is not a school. Gurukul is a kind of like a place. Okay, a place where kind of like a simply is this thing. Thousands of students are kind of like a stay into the Gurukul. Stay. They will not gonna go home. They will not gonna go home. They will kind of like a stay there, eat together, learn together, sleep together, go to the library together. It's a kind of like a entire campus area. Okay, yeah. There is a school, there is a boys' hostel, there is a girls' hostel, there is a library, there is a mess, there is a kind of like a playground, there is a school. Everything they are not going home. They are kind of like a stay there, and they are kind of like a live there and things and that and that. Okay, yeah. Because of this one move, I am actually solving so many problems. Okay, yeah. Now first problem. Okay, let's talk about the step-by-step problem. Okay, yeah. I will not gonna like let me tell you one thing. First of all, let me tell you one thing regarding about the Gurukul. Okay, I'm kind of like telling this thing in very short form. Okay, so as I mentioned, a kind of like a place, let's just say a Gurukul. I build a Gurukul almost like a kind of like a such a Gurukul which a capacity of kind of like a 10,000 student capacity. Okay, yeah. So 10,000 student capacity means like that 10,000 student are stay in that Gurukul. Okay, they are stay in that Gurukul. They are kind of like simply learn together things like that and that. They have kind of like simply sleeping arrangement, hostel arrangement. They have kind of like simply food arrangement, things and that and that. I will gonna talk about this thing later. Okay, yeah. Let's talk about this Gurukul. That ki they will kind of like stay there and things and that and that. Now, how this kind of like a Gurukul will solve the problem step by step, I will gonna kind of like give the answer. Okay. So the first reason is that ki girls are kind of like excluded from the education system. When the Gurukul launch, this problem will not gonna happen. Why? Because only one important thing that the girls are kind of like excluded is because of that ki first amenity that I told you, toilet is not only there. But dude, Gurukul is a kind of like a 10,000 people, 10,000 students are actually there with the boys and girls and things and that and that. Okay, yeah. And obviously they would have sleeping arrangement, they would have toilet arrangement, things and that and that. So this is not the case. Second problem, far from home. Okay, yeah. Obviously Gurukul is not kind of like a close to your home. Definitely not. But why is that far? Far means what? Like basically the school is actually very much far away, so that kind of like a traveling distance is kind of like too much. Obviously Gurukul is not close to your system, close to your home, but it's not a kind of like a thing that na, ki your daughter is actually came home every single day. No, when she went to the Gurukul, she will stay there. Obviously in the weekend she can come home, but she will stay there. Okay, yeah. She will not gonna come home every single day. Definitely not. She will live there, stay there and things and that and that. So distance is not even the problem at all. Because once the parents are kind of like let her daughter go to the Gurukul, she will kind of like stay there for almost like a week or 2 weeks or things like that. And after a kind of like 2-3 weeks, she will kind of like come home when she wants and things and that and that. Okay, yeah. So far from home is also kind of like a simply far from home. This reason is also issued. Solve. Now third problem is that ki a kind of like assembly is this thing safety and security. Like basically is this thing, if my daughter is actually going to the school and kind of like a bunch of other boys and things, is my daughter is secure, safe? Well, the Gurukul is kind of like equipped with lot of things. Like let me tell you one thing, if I build the Gurukul which has a capacity of kind of like a 10,000 student and they are kind of like staying there, obviously I have to provide lot more security over there. Why is that? Because I don't want a kind of like every student kind of like a do something or went something in wrong situation, like basically cigarette or smoking or things like that. Because one student kind of like a smoking, everyone started smoking and things and that and it might gonna create chaos in the Gurukul. Discipline are very much essential because Gurukul kind of like inviting such a student who is actually from standard 5. And in the standard 5, that means age of almost like 11 or 12. At the 11-12 age, you are very vulnerable. Students are very vulnerable. They don't know what is actually right and wrong. So in that particular moment, in that particular time, discipline are somewhat something really essential. Gurukul are actually providing that discipline. Okay, yeah, that what is actually right, what is actually wrong, and things and that and that. And obviously, is this thing in that discipline, I also kind of like a make sure that ki respect the woman and things and that. But also let me tell you one thing. I allow your daughter, or it is really essential that ki make sure your daughter is actually fall in love. Love is not a taboo. Love is not a taboo. Love is not a wrong thing. If you are parents, if you are kind of like a thinking that ki if my daughter went to the Gurukul and she kind of like a fall in love with somebody and things and that, then it kind of like a became shame to the family. No, she does not. Definitely not. Love is a very much essential, and it. I wanted that ki she should really fall in love with somebody. Obviously, sex is a kind of like a things that ki I do not want any kind of like a things. Okay, yeah, but still is this thing not na ki it's her personal thing. Like let me tell you one thing. Okay, yeah, sex is a kind of like a thing that ki I don't want to do this thing. Like let's be honest. Okay, let's be honest. Okay, yeah. In the Gurukul, let's just say I found a girl, or let's just say a kind of like a somebody, one boy fall in love with a girl in the same Gurukul. Okay, yeah. Now I allow them to kind of like a fall in love and things and that and that and that. And they are kind of like a fall in love things and that and that. Now basically is this thing, they are kind of like a really extreme. They are kind of like a pushing themselves a little bit extreme. They wanted to do a perform a sex and things and that and that. So basically in that situation, what you gonna do? What does Gurukul will gonna make sure that this will not gonna happen? Well, okay, if those girls and boys are cross 18, then probably what is actually existing now, still existing, the one thing for sure is that Gurukul is not the place for kind of like somebody any of those sexual activity and things and that. It's my personal thing that ki obviously is this thing you can fall in love, and if you are kind of like a somebody cross 18, or if you are kind of like a somebody eligible for kind of like a somebody do a sexual contact and things and that, you can do it. It's your personal thing. But in the Gurukul, I am not allowed to do anything at all. No, it's not. Okay, because it's wrong, and it is wrong. Like it is wrong means what na ki, like basically is this thing na. Okay, like dude, like you are kind of like something really pathetic, right? Like basically at one sentence you kind of like say this thing that ki love is really essential and things and that, and you are kind of like saying these things, sex is not in taboo and things and that. Then on another sentence you are kind of like letting them that ki Gurukul is not kind of like a place where you could do sex. Then where they would gonna say do sex? Like, dude, it's not okay. What the fuck is that? Okay, let me tell you one thing. Now, okay, why are you not letting people to do a sex in the Gurukul? Are you fucking kidding me? Okay, Gurukul is a place where learn, studies, understand new concept. It's not meant to do sex. It's not. Definitely not. It never will be. Okay, yeah. It's my opinion. It's just me as a Saurabh Bothare. I'm kind of like a giving my opinion that ki sex is not a taboo and things and that. If you have a consent and if you have a kind of like a somebody in proper age, you can do this thing. It's your choice. It's up to you. Okay, yeah, but Gurukul is not a place that you could do sex. It's not. It's a kind of like a learning environment and learning campus and things and that. It's not a place you can do sex over there. Okay, so these are two different things. Okay, yeah, I didn't really own Gurukul. I am executing this protocol. like this is what kind of like a thing. Okay, so let me tell you one thing. It's not. Okay, so basically is this thing na ki if you are falling in love, okay, let me tell you one thing. In the Gurukul, obviously is this thing that ki you have attraction and things and that, and you fall in love. Okay, yeah. Would you do sex? Do not. And if the Gurukul find out that ki we fall in love and things and that, so what will gonna happen? So basically is this thing na, it's not really that ki Gurukul doesn't know. Obviously Gurukul have entire security system regarding about everything what you are kind of like doing in Gurukul. They know everything. Okay, yeah. So basically if you are fall in love with somebody, obviously counselor will kind of like talk to you and your girlfriend or yeah your partner. or the person that you fall in love. Okay, like basically it's this thing that key counselor will gonna say, okay, listen, we understand, we realize that key you both are falling in love, you are kind of like talking to each other and things and that and that, and as also we have found out that you kiss together, we have footages that you are kind of like kissing together. So basically it's this thing, are you girlfriend boyfriend? Then both couple are gonna say, yeah, we both are girlfriend boyfriend. Okay, yeah. Now in that particular moment, counselor will kind of like give them a suggestion that what should you supposed to do, what should you supposed to do not. Obviously is this thing, Gurukul are allow them to fall in love and things and that, because it's essential, it's a kind of like simply a new chapter of the life that you understand concept regarding about the relationship. Love is a very important factor in our life. Gurukul are kind of like let them learn that thing, but counselor are kind of like giving them proper instruction, direction, that what should you do, what should you do not. Okay, yeah, where you kind of like, oh, make sure the boundary should supposed to happen and make sure you do not. Like this is kind of like a thing, counselor will kind of like tell those couple that how should you supposed to behave as a couple in Gurukul. Okay, yeah, so this is what it is. Okay, yeah. Now regarding about parents, now parents will gonna say, what the fuck is that? Then what exactly is this thing? What is actually meaning of the Gurukul? Like basically, if my daughter is not really safe here, safe there, then what is actually meaning of that? Dude, what do you think it is? Like basically, falling in love is a crime or what? No, it's not a crime. Like it's very essential to fall in love. Like very like I am kind of like somebody very pathetic that I'm saying this thing that ki till the age of this 32, I didn't really fall in love or didn't really have that experience. And I'm kind of like a really wrong, because I get my maturity very, very late. Like at the age of 27. Then I realized that oh, this is the world. I should so behave like that and this like that. I make so many fuck up mistake, and right now I'm kind of like a simply sit right here. And this is all actually happen is because of that ki I didn't really become understand, I don't really aware of my situation, I'm not really just, I just kind of like a thing act as a joker and things and that. Like this maturity, like probably the responsibility or the understanding the consequences of action, I don't know that till the age of 27. After the age of 27 I understand, okay, yeah, like I did this wrong, this wrong, this wrong, this wrong. But if you fall in love, another person will judge you. Okay, yeah. And when the another person kind of like a judge you, you grow more, you understand more. Obviously you have flaws, and that flaws other person kind of like a tell you. No random person will gonna tell you. The person who kind of like a fall in love with you, that particular say, okay, this is the wrong thing with you. And also you understand the another person. If you don't really relationship taught you so many things, dude. You understand people. And let me tell you one thing now. It's not really that you will not gonna married. Obviously in one day you will gonna married, and you have to know what is actually relationship. How should you supposed to be happy in the relationship and things and that. It really required a kind of like experience of relationships. Every person is not a right person. So this is what it is. Love is a very essential subject that every student should supposed to be learned. Gurukul allow them, but with proper kind of like a simply instruction and manual that what should you supposed to do, what should you supposed to not. Counselor are kind of like a treat them very much nicely. Okay, so this is what it is. Now regarding about sex, I still not allowed to do this thing on Gurukul. Definitely not. And if you did this thing, heavily punishment will gonna happen. So do not. Okay. So basically regarding about girls, this problem is actually solved, right? Now reason number two. Reason number two, children with disabilities. Okay, yeah. Gurukul has a kind of like a special section for a disabled student. Okay. And regarding about everything. Okay, let me tell you one thing. How is that? So the one of the biggest problem for disability is that parents are didn't really consider them as a kind of like somebody is thinking they would kind of like became something in their life and things and that. Okay, yeah. But let me tell you one thing. Gurukul is a free of cost. There is no money is actually taking from parents. Nothing really at all. No, I'm like a Gurukul actually taking the burden of the parents. I am taking their kids and educate them, better them, kind of like a things like that. I'm not gonna asking any single amount of money, nothing really at all. Okay, yeah. First of all, why? Okay, why are we kind of like doing this con free of cost? Okay, because of this thing. Okay, I don't really consider them I don't really consider that ki student is a responsibility of their parents. No, like no, nothing at all. I consider them it's a responsibility of government. Like basically is this thing, if the student, like if that particular kid who actually born, parents are not the responsible, actually government are the responsible. What do you mean by that? Okay, yeah. Because let me tell you one thing now. If I wanted to kind of like make those student as an asset for the country. Like let me tell you one thing. That kid will kind of like somebody do a job, earn money, and when he earn money, he spend money. So who will gonna get profit? Or who will kind of like somebody get value? Does parents? Yeah, probably he might kind of like help their parents and things and that, but not mostly. Mostly kind of like somebody government are kind of like earning revenue from that particular person when he kind of like understand, or when he started earning money, he's spending money in the economy and things and that. So this is what it is. This is what kind of like somebody that key government actually taking more profit from that kid. So probably this is the government are actually responsible for letting them teach and things and that. So that's why I'm not kind of like asking any kind of like somebody money from their parents. Nothing at all. Okay, yeah. Now regarding about disabled student, same problem is that most of the parents are actually consider them, why do I supposed to be kind of like a teach that disabled student, because it will gonna cost me more and things and that. Still, it is not your concern, it's not your thing. Give me your disabled student, I will make them as a kind of like as much as better as possible. Gurukul has a kind of like entire department for that disabled student, and they will kind of like educate them. They have kind of like a different teacher, they have kind of like their staff regarding about understanding and things and that. So problem solved. There is no things at all. And as also is using, disabled students are always been kind of like somebody very much claustrophobic, because the rest of the life are kind of like somebody feel like that they don't really kind of like a welcome in their family, because they are kind of like became this particular that person. But when those disabled students are kind of like somebody came into the Gurukul, and when they met another disabled student, they are kind of like attached and things and that. They think that they are not the alone in the rest of the world. So they might kind of like somebody create hope in their mind, and they might kind of like somebody do much more better in their life. So yeah. So this is what kind of like I'm solving this problem. Third problem, tribal Adivasi student. Okay, yeah. Now basically tribal Adivasi student, one of the biggest problem that those are student are kind of like excluded is because of that language, right? Yeah. Now let me tell you one thing regarding about the location of the Gurukul. Okay, yeah. So let me tell you one thing. If the Gurukul has a capacity of 10,000 student, okay, yeah, that 10,000 student came from where? Came from like where it came from. So basically, let's just take a Gurukul and take a kind of like a draw a circle of 100 kilometer. Okay, yeah, like 100 kilometer radius, and kind of like a draw a circle. And there is a kind of like a 200 kilometer diameter. Okay, yeah. So in that 200 kilometer diameter, those 10,000 students are actually came from that 200 kilometer of diameter. Okay, like all those students are actually came from that 200 kilometer of diameter. They are actually came from the Guru. They will came to the Gurukul. Okay, yeah. Why am I kind of like and I also is this thing, I'm making sure that like beyond that, like basically if the student who is actually kind of like from 300 kilometer away, that particular person not allow into that Gurukul, that particular person allowed to their own Gurukul. Like basically is this thing that I am kind of like building a cluster of that Gurukul, like a 200 kilometer diameter. Okay, and let those things. And why is that? Because there is no language barrier. Okay, because of, let me tell you one thing, if I kind of like make sure that 200 kilometer diameter, and I'm kind of like somebody putting those students into the Gurukul, having less kind of like somebody diversion of kind of like somebody language. Okay, because obviously is this thing in the 200 there might be very less language will gonna change. Obviously if I kind of like went to 500 and 600, probably entire language will gonna change. But in the within a 200 range, within a 200 diameter, 200 kilometer diameter, language might not gonna change that much. So basically is this thing, it's not really that if I kind of like put the Adivasi into the Gurukul, their language is not kind of like a different than other people language. Definitely not, because rest of the kind of like a people who are also kind of like a speak their own language and things like that and that too. So it's not really kind of like a simply language would be kind of like a much more barrier. Definitely not. But also let me tell you one thing. It's not really that key education is kind of like, it's not really that Gurukul is just kind of like a simply treating them just only their native language. No. The one, as I mentioned, okay, let me tell you one thing. Gurukul is a kind of like a place where government will gonna take the responsibility of every kid. Okay, yeah. So that means government wants to create asset. Okay, yeah. Like I government want to create all those kind of like a school, all the kind of like a somebody student in Gurukul are the asset for the country, that will become asset in the country. So they will gonna kind of like a taught you English language. Why English language? Because English is a global language. Okay, yeah. And basically, okay, let me tell you one thing. I'm kind of like going to talk about little bit of rough over here. Okay, yeah, but you have to understand this thing. Okay, yeah. It's a kind of like a, let's just imagine I am a kind of like a creating a product. Okay, yeah. And that product will gonna sell to the other country if that product matches with the criteria of that premiumness or things and that. Okay, yeah. So basically understand that premiumness is a English language. If you speak English, you are considered them premium language, means you are premium product. And when you are premium product, you can easily sell in everywhere, like every country or every company or things and that. So that government will kind of like earn revenue from you. How? By remittance or by any kind of like a things, or if you stay in the country, you are kind of like spending money into the country, so taxes on things and that. Okay, yeah. So this is what it is. This is what I'm trying to tell you. Okay, so basically, if you are kind of like somebody Adivasi, you are entering the Gurukul. Obviously, your surrounding are kind of like a speaking all those Adivasi language and things and that. But you will gonna stay the Gurukul for almost like a 15 year. Okay, yeah, 15 year probably. Yeah, probably 15 year. Okay, yeah. And in the 15 year, 12-15 year. Okay, yeah. And within the 12-15 year, your transformation will gonna change. You might speak kind of like Adivasi language at the beginning, but soon after later you will gonna started speaking English soon. And after the end will gonna came, you will kind of like speak more and more English, because government wants you to sell. Okay, yeah, you are the product. Okay, yeah, because if I am not taking, like, if the Gurukul is not actually taking money from any kind of like a parents, any kind of like a money from their parents, then basically Gurukul has a right on you, that what kind of like a person that you became, and what kind of like a teaching should I supposed to be give it to you, so that you will become asset for the country in the future. Okay, yeah, because in the end, government wants to earn money from you, so they will gonna make you as much as better product. So language would be a change. Okay, this will gonna happen too. Okay, now another is that migrant children means like that children who kind of like a migrate a lot and things and that. This is a kind of like a things that I don't know at the moment. Okay, like this kind of like a reason, I don't really have any kind of like answer for that. Because let me tell you one thing now, Gurukul is not allow kind of like such a student which is actually kind of like a away from that 200 kilometer. Okay, yeah, but migrant students are always moving, so how they will gonna learn? For that particular thing, I might allow them to come into the Gurukul, but still they have to accept that they will gonna face a lot of language barrier. Let's just say a kind of like a particular person who is from Bengal, okay, from Kolkata, and they are kind of like shifted to Nashik. Okay, so Nashik has a Gurukul. So basically, when she went to the Nashik, obviously in the Nashik Gurukul, they are kind of like talking Marathi language, and she might not understand Marathi that much Marathi. So she will gonna like she have to face that thing. Like I don't know at the moment how that thing will gonna happen, but right now I don't really have any solution for migrant student probably at the moment. Okay, now urban and poor. Oh, that is a really good thing. Okay, yeah. So basically, is this thing, as I mentioned, urban and poor is a kind of like a simply problem where kind of like a simply, even if the metro city, some people are kind of like a very rich and some people are kind of like a very poor. Okay, yeah. And this is kind of like simply represented by how they behave, how they look and things and that, right? But in the Gurukul, there is no rich, there is no poor, nothing really at all. Every student have a kind of like a do similar thing that every student does. There is no rich, there is no poor, nothing really at all. Every student will kind of like come, they will kind of like do study things and that. The credibility of the student is a kind of like a depend upon how much effort that they put to do a study. Their credibility defined by kind of like a some listing how much consistent they are kind of like using Gurukul app. I didn't really talk about the Gurukul app in this artifact, but Gurukul app is also another thing too. Okay, I will gonna mention later. Like I already mentioned in the previous artifact episode, but is this thing? It's a kind of like a things that is a kind of like a credibility is actually defined by how much effort that they put. So even if you are poor or even if you are rich or whoever you are kind of like a putting effort, you will get succeeded. That's it. And there is no rich, there is no poor. Like they don't really have any kind of like a poor or rich family or rich student will kind of like a somebody that Mercedes will gonna come and kind of like a pick you up and go to the, no, it's not really happened. Okay, yeah. Every student kind of like a treat them very equally in Gurukul. So there is no bias in here. Obviously, it's this thing. Humans have a kind of like a somebody capacity to kind of like a create or clan or alliance or groups. Okay, yeah. And this is definitely gonna happen because when you are kind of like a somebody combining 10,000 student in one area, obviously is this thing that cluster will gonna happen. Groups will gonna create, clans will definitely will gonna create. So how this will gonna happen? Well, basically is this thing. If the group will gonna happen, then I'm gonna make sure that that group should supposed to be happen with right way. Means what? Photography group, metallurgy group, or kind of like somebody scientific group, or any kind of like somebody geological group, or kind of like somebody the sociological group, or any kind of like somebody that key environmental group, or any kind of like a things that key like a basically is this thing singing group or different group. Okay, yeah. So if like humans have capacity to kind of like create the groups, create the clans and things like that. So basically give them a name so that they will kind of like represent a particular kind of like a simply particular section of the things that they represent, or video game group or whatever the group. There are so many groups are actually there. So 10,000 people are too much, and obviously they will kind of like create a group. So utilize that group to kind of like depends on things and that. So it is also really good, right? So yeah. So there is no rich and poor and things. This is kind of like a problem I solve. Linguistic minorities. Linguistic minorities means like that same, like a basically is this thing that get lost in translation. They don't really speak the language, or they don't really have money or things and that. Still, as I mentioned, every person in the Gurukul are kind of like treated equally. There is no bias. There is nothing really at all. Regarding about language, I already mentioned Gurukul is a kind of like attracting such a cluster of group who is kind of like within a 200-kilometer diameter. That's it. Okay, so there is no language barrier and things and that. So and as also is this thing, there is no kind of like I'm taking money from parents. Okay, even if that kid is actually from beggar, will come to the Gurukul, and yeah, that's it. So this is what kind of like a things will gonna happen. All right, so this is all the kind of like a problem that kind of like a somebody that key student are excluded from the education, and this is a kind of like a solution that I have, that I could suppose to solve that problem. But still my solution is not reform at the moment. There are so many things, because it's an empty word. The stuff that I'm saying right now, it's just an empty word. Implementation and expectation are very much different. I am making sure that whatever I said and whatever the value that I wanted to implement, it should supposed to implement. It will take time, but still I understand sometimes reality does not match with the expectation, and that is true. But I try as much as better to kind of like make sure that happen less or maybe minimum. All right, so this is it. I was supposed to end here. Thank you.